ever felt, well, stuck? You know that feeling, like you're on a path you didn't really choose for yourself and you're not quite sure how to get off it? Yeah, it's a feeling a lot of us know all too well. Today, we're going to dive into a few powerful realizations that might just give you a whole new map for navigating your life. So have you ever felt, well, stuck? You know that feeling, like you're on a path you didn't really choose for yourself and you're not quite sure how to get off it? Yeah, it's a feeling a lot of us know all too well. Today, we're going to dive into a few powerful realizations that might just give you a whole new map for navigating your life.
So let's start with a really direct question, one that gets right to the heart of a huge modern struggle. Is your phone competing for your life? I know it sounds a little dramatic, but when you really think about it, the fight for our attention is just relentless. And to prove it, just look at this number: 6 hours. For a lot of us, that's the average amount of time we spend staring at a screen every single day. And when you put it like that, it's not just a few minutes here and there, is it? It's a huge slice of our one and only life. Now, let's try to reframe that time. 6 hours a day? That's basically a full-time job. But, it's a job with all the mental drain and absolutely none of the benefits. You get no paycheck, there's no career progression, and you're making very few real, lasting memories. It's just time that's been consumed.
And this brings us to our first big idea, because this isn't happening by accident. These distractions, they're part of these bigger, often invisible systems that we can call mind traps. And they're designed specifically to keep us hooked, usually without us even noticing. So the first trap is what you could call your information diet. The idea is pretty simple. Whatever you feed your mind, that's what shapes how you feel. So if you're scrolling through an endless feed of bad news, online arguments, and just drama, your mind starts to expect stress and conflict everywhere. Right? I mean, you wouldn't eat junk food all day long and expect to feel physically amazing, so why on earth do we do it to our minds?
But it's not just about what we're consuming online. See, the digital world often cranks up the volume on another, more personal trap, one that really messes with our goals and desires. It's called the happiness treadmill, and it pretty much explains why finally getting that thing we want so badly often doesn't make us happy for very long.
The more formal name for it is the hedonic treadmill. Just think about something you once desperately wanted. A new phone, maybe a promotion, or a relationship. You probably told yourself, okay, once I get this, I'll finally be happy. And then you get it. And for a little while, it's fantastic. But you know what happens next. That feeling just fades. The cycle almost always plays out like this. First, it starts with this intense desire. Then you get it, and you get that brief moment of satisfaction. But then, step 3 kicks in. Adaptation. The new, exciting thing just becomes your new normal. And where does that lead? Right back to the beginning, a brand new search for the next thing to make you happy. It's a treadmill that'll leave you completely exhausted. So how in the world do we get off these treadmills? How do we break out of these traps? Well, it all starts by changing our perspective. It's about understanding that the setbacks we all face aren't roadblocks. They're actually part of the path forward. And here's a huge realization, something that's so important to get. You can restart anytime. We have this invisible belief that if you make a mistake, you're just hard-locked into that decision forever. But that is just not true. The time you've spent, the skills you've learned, none of that is wasted. And there's no official schedule for life that you have to follow. At the end of the day, it really all comes down to the story you tell yourself. One person can see a failure, but someone else looks at the exact same situation and sees a lesson. One person experiences rejection, while another sees it as a redirection, pushing them towards something even better. It's the same event, just a completely different experience. And that brings us to what might be the single most important idea in this entire explainer. The narrative you create in your own head isn't just a story, it is actively shaping your reality. If you frame your life as a series of losses, it's going to feel like one long losing streak. But if you see it all as feedback, then everything becomes useful. Okay, so I know this might sound like a lot of heavy mental work, but here's the crazy part. The path forward is often way simpler than we let ourselves believe. In fact, deep down, you probably already know exactly what you need to do. Just take a second and ask yourself this question honestly. If you were to start today, right now, what's one thing that would genuinely improve your life? I'm willing to bet you could come up with a few things almost immediately. Because the answer is hardly ever a mystery. It's usually the obvious stuff.
the things we avoid because we're secretly hoping for an easier magic bullet option. Things like, getting more sleep, actually studying for that class you're putting off, eating better food, or just cleaning your room. We already know the answers. The real challenge isn't doing the work itself, it's getting over that huge mental hurdle just to begin. Think about it. Right before you start a task you've been dreading, it feels impossibly heavy, right? Your brain comes up with a dozen excuses. But the second you start, it's almost never as bad as you imagined. Starting is way more than half the battle. And this brings us to our final and maybe the most important realization of all. Once you start taking those small steps, once you get over that initial barrier, you can begin to build a life based not on what everyone else expects, but on your own definition of success. Because here's the absolute truth. There is no one-size-fits-all script for a good life. There just isn't. This idea that everyone should follow the exact same path to be happy or successful, it's a total myth.
I mean, what are you actually chasing? Some people are chasing status, others are chasing freedom, and some people just want peace. A person with a super high-status job can feel completely empty, while someone else living a really simple life can feel totally fulfilled. The only real difference is whether their life is aligned with their own internal values.
And that is the ultimate point here. No one else gets to define what makes your life meaningful. Not trends, not social media, not other people's opinions. Because at the end of the day, you are the one who has to live with your choices. Which means you are also the only one who can decide what makes all of it worth it. So the final question is for you. Knowing that you get to write the script, that you get to define the meaning, what do you choose?